Hi, good day everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on this live streaming video that we're doing about launching a career in medical writing. This is through the medical writing program at University of California, San Diego. So I'm Donna Simcoe, who is the president of the American Medical Writers Association Pacific Southwest Chapter, and very happy to be joined today with Leslie Bruce from UC San Diego Extension Program, who will be talking to us about this medical writing program. So thank you for moving to the second slide here. So this is really an educational webinar about this new medical writing program. This is not necessarily an endorsement from AMWA, but we thought that this would be very helpful to let those of you who are members of AMWA or other organizations know about this medical writing program at UC San Diego. So just a couple of housekeeping items. Our lines are muted, except for ours. And if you would like to ask a question, please register through the live streaming video. Please try to keep your questions succinct if you can, and we'll do our very best to answer all questions. Just some fair balance, just to mention that AMWA also has a new medical writing certification exam that just took place a couple of weeks ago at our annual meeting. And so there's also some other programs out there about medical writing. And so we're very happy today to talk with Leslie about this program that really just shows the interest that there is out there in medical writing. So if we could please move to the third slide. So again, my name is Donna Simcoe. There's my email address if you'd like to contact me directly after this. We will be posting a link to this live video to our website afterwards, so you can always go and see that there in case there was any slides that you might have missed during this presentation. So our website is AMWA-PSW.org. So if we could please go to the fourth slide. So just a few slides about our chapter. We have about 345 members. Our chapter extends from Santa Barbara south, all of Southern California, all of Arizona, and also part of Nevada. And so if we could go to the fifth slide. This is just a very brief member map of where our chapter is located. And so since San Diego, University of San Diego has this program, we thought it would be very helpful to work with them today to present this webinar to you. So just the next slide is slide 6 is our chapter leadership. We're very lucky to have a lot of members in our chapter leadership, and so just wanted to thank them for all of their behind-the-scenes work to help make this webinar possible today. So slide 7, I'd like to introduce Leslie Bruce, who's a director in healthcare leadership and community outreach of UC San Diego Extension. She's the director of this medical writing program. She's faculty of UC San Diego School of Medicine master's program in health policy and law. She's also faculty at UC San Diego School of Medicine's master program in leadership of healthcare organizations. And she's also the lead instructor of politics and public policy of healthcare courses in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento. So at this point, I will turn this over now to Leslie. So why UC San Diego?
Thank you so much for joining me with this. I'm delighted to present to the AMWA membership about this new writing program at UC San Diego. As far as why UC San Diego, I think that many people in the region already know what a powerhouse this university is in research and science and medicine. So I think it's a natural, given the university focus and frankly the surrounding region and the biotech industry and how much we have going in life sciences in this region. So as you can see from this slide, the Center for World-Class Universities at Shanghai Jiaotong rated UC San Diego the 14th best university in the world for the 3rd consecutive year. And of course, we are no stranger to U.S. News and World Report rankings, where we were latest ranked 9th best public university in the nation. And we have been in the nation's top 10 public universities for more than a decade. Again, we are a powerhouse when it comes to science, engineering, and medicine, and our research funding has surpassed $1 billion 4 times in the last 6 years. So UC San Diego is a perfect growing ground for a program like this. So if we go to slide 9, you'll see that we'll get started in talking about the medical writing program. Our program was designed for individuals with advanced degrees in science. particularly master's, PhD, postdoc, that kind of student who is looking for a career outside academia. And so this is a perfect alternative. It's a wonderful paying job. The demand for medical writers is high. So it's taken us a couple of years in development, actually, and we'll be launching it in January of 2016, which of course is right around the corner. And it will be an application program. People will have to apply through our website, provide writing samples so that we can appreciate their ability to succeed in this program. We are specifically targeting individuals who are looking to write for peer-reviewed journals, regulatory documents, scientific grants, and continuing medical education materials. Those are really the foci of this program, and we expect to give students incredible hands-on experience with each of those areas where they will be able to specialize. The program is approximately 200 hours over 18 months. It is fully online, and I think that is a little bit unique. It's also asynchronous, so that means that people can, in other words, take a week to listen to a lecture or something like that, or complete an assignment. People are not showing up online at the same time and place, and I think that gives people flexibility. There are 5 core courses to the program, and then 8 units of electives are required as well. All of our faculty are seasoned medical writers, incredibly experienced in one of those 4 areas that I just mentioned in the last slide. Give or take, the program will cost about $4,000. It just depends on which electives the student takes, but it's approximately that amount for everyone. And I think it's important for your members to know that we have 2 prerequisites for joining this program. One is medical terminology, and the other is statistics. We really think that students need to have a solid base in those 2 things before they start. They can either take that now, maybe they've taken it in the last 5 years and got a B, then we'll waive those requirements, but those are really important for students. We do have classes that will satisfy those requirements, so if anybody needs to, they can look to our own online programs to satisfy those. But if we can take just a minute then, and we'll talk about the core courses. The first is Introduction to Medical Writing and Editing, and that's really where we get an overview of the waterfront of the profession and the different areas, what are the resources, what's involved with each of these tracks. And then, we further build on that in Medical Writing and Editing 2. And then students actually will take Designing Figures, Tables, and Graphs and Ethics for Medical Writers before they complete the final core course, which is the Advanced Medical Writing and Editing. That advanced course is where they'll complete a capstone in one of those niche areas. They will work with an expert to mentor them through a capstone writing assignment. They will actually have a portfolio of writing to show potential employers what they have learned and what they've accomplished and what they're able to do. So we think that's really important. So if we go to slide 12, you can see the electives come from 3 basic areas within UC San Diego, and we are adding electives as we speak. We are creating more for people so that they can, in fact, go into the areas that really matter to them most. Currently, I would say that most of our electives are coming from our clinical trials certificate program. We have 2 very large clinical trials programs, one actually in Latin America, but these clinical trials programs have a number of electives that I think are extremely suitable for this medical writing program. We also have a very, very robust life sciences cluster within the University Extended Studies area. There are many courses within that discipline that will be, I think, useful to our students. And then even our business courses offer some opportunity for electives. And one in particular I wanted to mention was Grant Proposal Preparation for Research Administration. That's actually a business course. So these are the kinds of things that students will be able to look at and consider when they're looking at their 8 units of electives. So that pretty much is a basic foundation of what the program is going to consist of. On the top of this slide, you'll see the web page, the URL for the web page. Again, I'm Leslie Bruce. I'm the program director, and Kayla Roundy is the program representative, and our emails are there. We welcome phone calls, but rather than play phone tag, we ask that you email us and we'll set up a time to talk, and that way we're not chasing each other back and forth. So hopefully that gets us started, and we can take some questions and see where people are interested in learning more.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Leslie. That was a wonderful overview. Really appreciate you sharing that information with our chapter. And so you'll see on the screen you can register and ask questions. So please, we invite your questions now at this point. And to get us started, how did you decide on a medical writing program?
Well, interestingly enough, we have in our Arts, Humanities, and Languages division of the Extended Studies division, we have a medical editing course. We had actually two, I believe, two medical editing, and they were extremely popular, extremely full all the time. And the instructor for those said, you know, you really ought to look at a larger program for this, because given, you know, the growing demand in you know, the life sciences industry, biotech, pharma, the whole thing, you ought to really look at growing that program. And so we really started out looking at it as a medical editing certificate. But the more we researched, the more we realized that medical writing was really what the demand was for. Appreciate, you know, that students will need editing skills, so we will certainly include that, but we really found through our market research that medical writing was where we really should be focusing. So that's how we came about.
Well, that's great. Well, we're glad that you are, and that's certainly something that we're hearing in the field too, that we're hearing more from the folks that we work with in pharmaceutical and biotech companies, medical device companies, that they're asking us as medical writers to help more with editing. And so I think you're right. I certainly think, especially in this area, there's really a lot of medical writing needs that are out there, a lot of up-and-coming smaller companies that need help. And so I think that this is a wonderful program that will help to transition some medical writers into this field. And so you had mentioned a number of advisors and professional medical writers who were involved in advising on this program. And I noticed that a number of the advisors are a part of AMWA. And so just wondering, you know, how did you choose the advisors that you worked with?
Interesting. In our research, of course, we're looking at people who are writing and publishing and you know, helping other medical writers improve their own skills. And so in San Diego, which is, of course, a very rich place to be looking for advisory board members. And, you know, we certainly could have looked farther and wider for advisory board members, but we really like to meet face to face at least a couple of times. And I just think that's really important. So without unduly burdening anyone from afar, since we have no budget to fly people in, we really looked at medical writers who, and got recommendations, solid recommendations from others that we know in life sciences. And they did recommend some extraordinary people. And if you go to our website, you can see as you scroll down on the certificate page, all of the names and the businesses of the medical writers who are on our advisory board. But, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, because all UC San Diego Extension programs start with an advisory board. Because, you know, we need the experts to come together and say, this is what you should do. We don't know what to do. You know, we rely on seasoned experts who are practicing in the field to help us construct what they think is going to be the ideal education for someone who is going to get into the field. And I think it's served us very well, and it certainly has in this instance too. We were very fortunate to have the guidance that we did and continue to have. You know, I appreciate this advisory board very much. And you're on it, so
Yes.
thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for reaching out to those at AMWA also. We certainly appreciate that, and I'm very happy to hear about this program. So we do have a question online here. I'm interested to hear that you will offer an ethics course, because it is an important topic. What issues will you be covering in that course?
Well, as a matter of fact, that course is under development now, so I wish I could give you detail, but since I am not the instructor and I don't even have the syllabus yet, and it will be offered, let's see, I believe summer quarter of 2016. So as you can appreciate, that instructor has a little more time, and but I will say the instructor is extremely seasoned and has taught it before at another major university. So I'm very pleased to report that she's very passionate about ethics, and I certainly think we could all be that, and you will not be disappointed.
Oh, wonderful. That's great. So we invite you to please ask your questions online. We have a few more here too. So at this timeline now, then people really should be thinking about starting their application process, and is there a certain deadline by when they should be submitting?
Absolutely. I would certainly recommend that everybody apply by the second week in December. And I wish I had the date in front of me, and sadly I don't. It's not a hard and fast deadline, but what I can tell you is the university closes for 2 weeks.
How nice.
Yes. Well, it's the good news and the bad news. When applications are due in January, it makes a crunch for everyone. But so, you know, if the quarter starts on January 4th, you have to have your application accepted and you be ready to go. So no later than that. And I would certainly encourage people to start their application now and get it in as soon as possible. You know, we need transcripts. We don't need official ones, but we do need unofficial ones. We need to be able to see what kind of student they are and why their background is appropriate for our particular target here.
I see.
So
and what do they normally then need to do other than the transcripts for the application?
There is a writing sample required, and so they will definitely want something for that also. There is an application fee that has to be paid, not very large, but you know, we do spend a lot of time going over these applications, so it's important. And so the sooner the better. That's what I would say. The other thing I would say, speaking of timeline, is look at those prerequisites. Do you have those? Do you have them within the last 5 years? Do you have a B or better? If not, there's still time for you to get those so that you will, in fact, be qualified to apply.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. And then also I was curious how you selected the faculty for the program.
Very good question. I think that's important. I think, you know, one thing we do very carefully is research and research and research, and utilize our advisory board members and ask them for recommendations. So, like for instance, I would be reading, you know, the AMWA journals, one after the other, after the other, after the other, looking at the articles, who wrote them, what were they writing about, and if they're writing about, and I'm going to use an example from AMWA here.
Sure, please.
If they're writing about figures and tables and graphs, and how to make a compelling, how to make data look compelling, not just write about it, but how do they illustrate that with that kind of thing? Well, then I, you know, couldn't help but reach out to that person and say, is teaching designing figures, tables, and graphs something you'd be interested in? And thrilled to say he was. You know, he was from Los Angeles, but I found somebody else just through online research of people who, you know, not only are subject matter experts, but appear to be good teachers, because that's the key. And in some professions, you know, being a communicator to an audience is not, you know, not what people normally do in that profession. But, you know, fortunately, I was able to find another excellent person in Florida who is going to teach our first course. Very seasoned, had been editor of the AMWA Journal nationally. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we do, is really reach out, and then when we find somebody, we try to vet them as best we can, you know, without reaching out ahead of time, and find out that they are, in fact, an excellent choice. And, you know, sometimes when a faculty member turns you down, you say, do you know anybody that you would recommend that you think is fabulous? I mean, I don't want anything short of fabulous. And so that's how we got our ethics instructor. So that's basically how we go about it. And in fact, the faculty is from all over the country. Well,
that's excellent.
That's the beauty of online.
Right, that's very good. It's great. It's wonderful to hear too that you're looking in other fields and that kind of shared learning maybe across UC San Diego and AMWA too for this program. I think
absolutely.
You know, it's wonderful to hear. So really glad to hear about that resource there too. And so, you know, I was just curious then, who would you say that this program is designed for?
really designed for those people with advanced degrees in science. I think, your biology major, or, who's got a master's, a PhD, or has been a postdoc, those kinds of people. And, we are very rich in those on this campus, that is for sure. So I am hopeful that they will hear about this. But you think about chemistry and biology and bioinformatics and things like that. There's just a lot of opportunity. I even look at people in nursing, and we already have an application in process from an MD. So that, I hope that gives you a sense. These people who are very comfortable with science and are comfortable writing. I think that's an important thing, that people have to be able to write. And, I had a little bit of a debate with one of the faculty members about whether you had to be a writer first or a science person first.
Right.
And, I don't know which has to be first, but you got to have both.
Yes, that's right. It's interesting. We see that from our members, that they either come from the English side and they know how to write well and speak very well, and then they learn the science, or there's those who come from the science side and then learn how to write really well as part of there may be jobs or lab postings, those sorts of things. So it's interesting to hear you say that aspect. And it's also interesting that you have an MD who has applied, because I think an AMWA, which has been around for 75 years now, that's how it really was started, I believe, for medical doctors who were writing. And so that's how it started. And so we have some long-term members who have been around for 50 years as part of our organization, and that they remember, and they were telling me those stories. So it's great to hear that there's a lot of interdisciplinary kind of focus here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great.
I can't even, I can't wait to see what the first class looks like, the first group going through.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. So we have a couple other questions here online. Will your program cover any aspects of social media in medical writing? We're hearing a lot about social media and whether pharmaceutical companies are doing and writing for social media, especially about medical.
That is interesting. I am certain that it will be touched upon. I know it's in medical writing too, the intermediate course. But how much, I am not entirely certain. But what I will do, since the course is being, under development as we speak, is to make sure that it is. And if it warrants an advanced elective or an elective, we can certainly put one together. I think we're nothing if not nimble, and if that's what the market needs, we'll figure it out and get it there. And in the person who asked the question, if you know somebody who's really good at it, that you would recommend as faculty who would be qualified, I would love to get that recommendation.
That's wonderful. That's actually one of the other questions we have here, that this person says, I have worked with an excellent medical writer who did not have a formal education in science, but would you consider them, I guess, for the program? I guess is her question.
If I would encourage that person to apply. See, one of the things that is tough for us is that we have to make sure that the classroom milieu, there's nobody bringing it down for lack of knowledge, that everyone can have the most meaningful educational experience that they can. So we try to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But if this person were to apply, and I would encourage them to do that, we would certainly take a look at it and see whether or not experience could overcome. I just don't know. We just haven't been in that position yet.
Sure. But then for the faculty, if we have some recommendations on who might be very good faculty, we should send you an email?
Absolutely. I would love that. To hear. I would love that. And again, they can be from anywhere. As long as they're, willing to adhere to deadlines and, produce their content and be excellent teachers.
So it could be globally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's excellent. Wonderful. So we have a few other questions then too. So how do you see this medical writing program translating into a job? So I think that's probably one of the main questions. And I know a number of the AMWA members who are listening in today have taken classes through UC San Diego Extension. So I think that kind of translation then, we're hearing a lot from postdocs who are trying to get out of the labs and been in the labs for a long time. And so love to hear your thoughts on that.
Right. Well, as I said earlier, the statistics are showing that this is an in-demand profession, and it is growing. And not only is there greater demand than there is supply, that obviously makes the salaries better than a number of other things that people could be doing. The salaries are excellent. They're living, for people, and they can continue to grow. I think it also gives people great flexibility, whether they go to work for a pharmaceutical company, a medical device, or they could go to work for the government. They could, there's many options about where to find jobs. And then I think also important is the fact that this gives people flexibility who want to be freelancers. There are a lot of, as you know yourself, there are a lot of medical writers who like it because of the flexibility. It gives them an opportunity to, help raise children, man or woman. I mean, it gives people flexibility with their time, and so that's a great appeal, I think, for a lot of people. And we will have information in the courses about managing your time and what that means to be a freelancer, and how do you set up your own business like that.
Oh, that's very good to hear. I think too, especially in the fields that we work in with pharmaceutical and biotech, and also maybe in this area too in Southern California, there's a lot of turnover. A lot of us, the companies are being bought out, and so we might be losing our jobs. And so if you can do freelance writing on the side, which I think is great. That's how I started. I was in industry for almost 20 years and then started freelancing a couple of years ago. Just for a few hours a week, and then it's been able to transition to a full-time freelance kind of consulting role now. So I think that there is that opportunity that you can do that to help with that transition if that's the road that you choose. So it's wonderful to hear that you're talking about that also.
Absolutely. I hear from a number of the medical writers that I've spoken with, either in looking for faculty or talking to advisory board members, and frankly, I think they're one of the biggest benefits to them is that flexibility of a freelance occupation that pays well. So that's a real bonus, I think.
Yeah, it's very good. So again, we welcome your questions. Please feel free to type in your questions here online. And so we have a few others though too. So you had mentioned some other programs like the editing program. And so are there other programs that are sort of tangentially related to this medical writing program?
Absolutely. We have, this is interesting because, there's all kinds of writing, and we have a very robust copy editing certificate program at UC San Diego Extension. Then, of course, I mentioned earlier, we have these medical editing courses. We also have a couple of courses taught by a real professional, seasoned professional, Lynn Friedman, on science writing. And the difference is that our program is looking for science experts to be writing for other science experts, where our our science writing courses are when scientists want to communicate to the lay public. That's not what we're doing here in this program, but I think it's a terrific opportunity for people who, want to write for the lay public. We do have a couple of courses there. And I also mentioned that our electives are coming from several existing certificate programs within UC San Diego Extension. I mentioned clinical trials. There are lots and lots of courses there, and a complete certificate program. We also, as I said, the life sciences program, many things about, pharmaceutical development that a student might be interested in who is going to go into, say, regulatory writing. There are many courses there. And then finally, business. And I think, one thing science majors and grad students don't usually get is some of the fundamentals in business, in management, and things like that. So, we do have quite a number of other things that touch upon this in some way.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's excellent to hear more of those sort of business aspects too that are covered in there. That helps a great deal. And then I agree with you that there's this breadth of medical writing, and I think AMWA has on their website this long list of what medical writing can entail. So it could be the regulatory, the publications, the CME, the grant writing, those sorts of things. So it's wonderful that that program kind of covers all those different aspects there.
Absolutely. And you're mentioning that as I mentioned in that capstone project, when students are going to be able to specialize, they are really going to work with somebody who is seasoned in that field, who's going to mentor them through this field and give them a really good sense, not only preparing an actual writing, but understanding how that industry works and how to work within it.
And then having that really on-hands kind of writing aspect, and then maybe something that can be used, you know, for the future or for future companies and their employees.
Absolutely. We want to have students have something to show, something to show that illustrates their capability, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful to hear about these other programs. I certainly heard wonderful things about the science writing program that Lynn Friedman speaks about. We hear wonderful things about that. I know it's always you know, people trying to get into that course. It's maybe a challenge sometimes, but I think it's a really wonderful course to take. So,
well, it's got a great
excellent
reputation and terrific evaluations, and we live and die by evaluations here. So
wonderful. That's great. So we have a few other questions here. How does the UC San Diego program compare to other medical writing programs that are available?
Well, we did obviously research at the outset to find out who was going to be the competition. We looked at the University of Chicago and we looked at a Pennsylvania program. Isn't that the one you went to? Yes.
The graduate in biomedical writing and University of Sciences in Philadelphia.
Exactly, exactly. Those are just the two off the top of my head, and I apologize. You know, it's been a while since we investigated all that a few years ago. That takes a long time to get these things to fruition. But we looked at those, and you know, we really looked at who we are as a university and what we wanted to offer and what we felt that our market, our audiences needed. And, you know, for instance, the University of Chicago program looked at that a lot. You know, there was only so much information you can get about what the courses contain, but, you know, there was a lot of emphasis on synchronicity in that one that we wanted to avoid because that's just not our style or, you know, the way we do online, generally speaking. And then the one that you went to, of course, is, you know, in person.
It was. I think it's now changed.
Oh, well,
online, but right at that time.
So, you know, those are the kinds of things. And ours is not an advanced degree program. It is a certificate program, and it was far, as such, it is far easier to get it up and running and meeting the demand than trying to set up a degree program. We do have a couple of degree programs at UC San Diego Extension, one in leadership, well, actually three. One in clinical research, terrific for this kind of writing, another one in health policy and law, and another one in leadership of healthcare organizations. But they took years and years to get up and going and through the faculty senate and all of that, where and we don't have online degree programs at UC San Diego. So all of those things cause us to shape ours in the way that we have.
But because this is part of the extension, is that why it can be an online program?
Exactly.
Oh, I see.
And you know, I think, you know, the campus is not completely adverse to online at this point, but online degree program, no. No.
Oh,
So
I see. Okay, that's great.
extended studies, we can do certificates and, you know, get people the education they need in less than a full degree program.
I see. And so you had mentioned that you started looking and talking with advisors, I guess, a couple of years ago. That's really when the discussion started to talk about this.
Exactly. It take, you know, I think the important thing is to get it right, is really get it right the first time and talk to all the people you need to. But even though it sounds like it has taken us a while, and it has, getting a degree program going would take even longer. And there is this demand. We keep seeing, you know, opportunities for people to go out and start earning a living.
And I think from my perspective, I know we met maybe a few months ago. It feels like it started already. It was so fast from my perspective. So you've done a great job with getting this moving. So we have a couple other questions. Will your program cover the basics of U.S. and world regulations that apply to medical writing?
I'm going to say yes. I am not developing the first course or the second, but these are the kinds of things that I will take to heart and make sure that the instructors who have been hired, engaged to do those will include them.
because I think there are some of us who work primarily in the U.S. field, but then, oh, thank you, that's great. But then certainly we're impacted by the guidelines that we see globally, so I think that would be great, and it's a great question here. Too.
I'm making a note as we speak, and I will pass that along and make sure that we are giving that proper attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. So we have another question here. There was mention of the AMWA certification at the beginning of the broadcast. How does the UC San Diego certificate and the AMWA certification fit together or complement each other, if at all? So I guess I could start a little bit with the AMWA certification part. So that really is a separate aspect. So AMWA has just started this year offering as a medical writing certification exam. So the exam had just taken place a couple of weeks ago at the annual meeting, and it'll again, people can start applying and going for and taking the exam again at the DIA meeting, the Drug Information Association meeting that's coming up in June. But that's really a certification exam. So you sit down, you take a test for a couple of hours. It's I don't know exactly how many, more than 100 questions, I'm sure, and then you're graded on that exam, whether or not you pass or fail. So that's really been a specific exam program that's been in the works for a number of years, so that I can speak to that. So there really isn't, I don't know if there's a direct connection, but there's probably certainly a lot of topics that are covered in the UC San Diego Extension Medical Writing Certificate program that would certainly be very helpful for those who are taking the exam, I would think.
Well, we have talked to our instructors about the certification exam and want to be sure that they are covering what would be beneficial for that particular certification.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's excellent. Oh, that's very good. So there's a couple of different options here then for folks who are looking to get more certificate or certification in medical writing. So I think that sounds great. So you had mentioned that this program is primarily online. Is there ever a time when you might consider having it on site?
You know, if there were a need, if there was a market, let's just say, of people who, a groundswell, if you will, of interest in having a face-to-face experience, we would create that. At this point, we decided that it would be better to cast a broader net and do it online so that, in fact, people could take it from all over the world or the country. And so that's how we've started. If there were a need again, we are certainly open to it and would look to create that.
Oh, that's great. But then this seems like the best way to make it accessible to anyone.
Exactly. And sometimes when a program is many years old and you're continuing trying to put people in seats, you exhaust the supply of people who are interested, if you're just, if they physically have to be somewhere, where this, people can continue from all over.
Oh, that's very good. That's great. So now you had showed a slide, I think it's slide 11 here, about the core courses. Maybe we can go back to that. We have a few minutes, so if you wouldn't mind, kind of walking us through a little bit more detail of these programs, if that would be good.
I would love to tell you that I have faculty for every one of those that is designing them right now, but because the introduction to medical writing and editing, I didn't bring descriptions of these, but that is being constructed for launch, obviously, January 4th. The faculty for every one of these have been hired, although we are continuing to look for mentors who will mentor students in the capstone in the advanced writing and editing course. So that one is the only one that is less than complete. Now, we have given instructors sort of a basic outline of what we think should be covered, and with the help of some of our folks on the advisory board about what those should be. It's really up to the instructor when they have what we think should be covered. They're working with other instructors to make sure that there isn't undue overlap or duplication. They're in the process of putting these together now. So, for instance, medical writing and editing 2 will not take place until spring quarter. So that instructor still has a bit of time. So these are really quite under development, and I won't be able to give you a full description for a little while yet.
Oh, no, that's fine. I think that helps a great deal with what might be part of those different courses there. And so maybe if we could go to slide 10, you talked about the program itself being about 200-hour total program over 18 months. So that 18 months, I'm just curious, is that taking a couple of courses per quarter? Is that how that sort of plays out?
Yes, you would take medical writing, introduction to medical writing and editing in the winter quarter. Then that we envision would be followed by medical writing and editing 2, which would take place in spring. Then in summer and fall, we're looking at, you could even take them both together, the advanced medical writing and editing, or no, I'm sorry, not advanced, the two other ones, the 2-unit courses, designing figures, tables, and graphs, and ethics for medical writers. We're thinking those could be done together. And then you would not want to take anything else during the capstone course, the advanced medical writing and editing. So that's how we see that working.
I see, because the capstone course will be really intense on
really intense. And the student will have an assignment, they will submit a draft. The mentor will go through it and, with a fine-tooth comb and make suggestions, and then the students will rewrite it and bring it back, and then the mentor will look at it again and offer more. I mean, again, getting it toward that polished state that they can be proud of and show a potential employer.
I see. And even if they are working during that time, it might even be something that's related to their job, too, I think.
With any luck, yes. Yeah. I agree with you. I think that's a great way to go if students can make that work. That's a terrific win-win.
Right, or maybe even something that maybe could be published, so then you have some online writing credit when you come out of this. I think that would be wonderful.
I agree with you. I agree with you. We have a wonderful lead faculty member for this advanced medical writing and editing, and she's looking to maximize the experience regardless of which niche track the student might take. So getting published, that would be ideal.
That would be wonderful. And there's certainly lots of opportunity out there, I think, to write some kind of review article or something that would be applicable to that area, and hopefully would be able to turn into some kind of reference that you could then put on your resume.
That would be ideal.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
always keeping your eye on the ball. Where is this taking me? Where is this program going to take me? And it's important to have that in mind at all times.
Well, it certainly sounds like you've thought a great deal about the content for this program, and then to be able to do it within 18 months, I think that's a really great way to, as you said, to get people into the job force if that's what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
Program.
I think that is a focus and sort of it's within the DNA of Extension. That's what we do, is help people find a rewarding, good career and help them get there.
Oh, that's excellent. Very good. So we have a few more minutes left before the top of the hour. So again, I would welcome your questions online here. I was just curious, are there any kind of final things that you might want to say to the audience today about what they really should consider, what deadlines to keep in mind, those sorts of things?
I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity. I would certainly say go to the website now, really have a look at it. It's not reams and reams and pages, but it's enough for you to really think about as to whether or not this is for you. You can really look at who we're targeting in this audience, and you can start to research job prospects at places you'd like to work. I think that's really important for students to figure out, where would I like to work? Am I really cut out to be a freelance person, or do I want to get some experience in industry? And Amgen is down the street, but that people recommend that as a great place to work. Maybe let me see what their openings look like. Let me look at those job descriptions. What do they say? What do I need? And then, of course, the other thing I would say is get that application in. That's really important, because we're going to have a lot more time sooner than later to review these very thoroughly. So the other thing I would say to people, if you have questions, send me an email. Let me know. I'm happy to either respond by email or arrange a phone call.
Oh, that's excellent.
But get those applications in.
Right, by second week of December, I think you
At
said.
the latest,
Right.
at the latest, sooner, please.
Yep, that's great. And I think too, when you go through this program and then you can say you have this medical writing certificate, that's one of the questions I get from a lot of folks in our chapter here, is how to get that experience to be able to get into either full-time positions or freelance writing, but to be able to say that you have a medical writing certificate, that's certainly something that you can post on LinkedIn, and I know recruiters are even just looking for that term medical writing or medical writer. That's really what they look for when they're looking for people who might be right for the position. So I think that this is probably another stepstone, in that path.
That's right.
To be able to do that.
Differentiate yourself with extra experience from a university that is known for this kind of thing.
That's very good. So again, we're just kind of wrapping up here, maybe another 15 more minutes or so until the top of the hour, but if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to submit them at this time. And so any kind of other final takeaways or other items, that we should be thinking about with this program to make sure to I think this has been a wonderful overview, for our chapter here. And as we had said, this link to this webinar, along with the slides, will be available on our AMWA Pacific Chapter website, and also, I believe, on UC San Diego Extension website as well.
Yes, right.
So we'll certainly send out that link to everyone to make sure that they, can access this again if there were any slides that you had missed. But anything else then from your point of view?
I think we have exhausted the topic. I think that I'm hopeful that people got what they needed in the way of information and are encouraged to go look and explore it some more. This could be a wonderful career. Obviously, your AMWA members know that already, but perhaps others who might tune into this webinar later will not know that up front as your members do, that this is an excellent profession, particularly in the Southern California region, but way beyond as well, far beyond. So have a look. Let us know if you have any more questions. We're just open to conversation and helping people get where they want to go.
Yeah, this has been an excellent discussion with Leslie here today. Just to mention, what I really enjoy about the program is the aspect that you keep bringing back to job prospects and business and how you really can make a career out of this. Just to mention, AMWA also does a salary survey with our members, I think every 4 or 5 years or so, and it can really tell you, if you're a member, how well you can do in this field, whether it's hourly or salary rates. And so it certainly is a really great growing field. And so I think having a really good comprehensive medical writing certificate program like this is just another wonderful offering to our chapter and beyond, globally. So I'd like to thank Leslie again on this last slide here, slide 13. This is Leslie's email address if you have any questions. And we'd like to thank you again today for speaking with us.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.